They're all dead. Don't have to wait this time, 'cause I'm giving up on my sense of control.
Slam Pigs podcast, right back here again. Good to be back, as always, alongside me. It's not Slam Pigs without the man himself, Mike the Slam Pig. What's going on, man? Welcome back. How you been? Where can everyone catch you?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Slam Pigs podcast. I am Mike the Slam Pig. Glad to be back once again, live in the studio. Had to do some Skyping last week, but, you know, weather does that to you. Glad to be back here live with you. We're going to go over a lot of things this week, but firstly, check me out at Mike the Slam Pig on Twitter. As always, check me out on Facebook as well. Travis, where can they check out all your 300 things?
First of all, it's really weird to Skype with you. After doing this in-house for like 4 years, it was something, but we made it work. As always on Twitter, at the HibickyTMD. Hit that red button right down below, subscribe. All the goodness, retro gaming, pro wrestling, heavy metal podcast, Terry Belay's bullshit, everything in between. Royal Rumble has come and gone. We both watched it. Overall, not a full review of that, but just a quick synopsis. Thumbs up, thumbs down this pay-per-view.
I give it a thumbs up. I give it a B+ overall. There was some good, some bad, but overall I liked it. I definitely like being right on my predictions.
Yeah, no, I was waiting on it.
I definitely was. Edge is your Royal Rumble winner. He was my pick. I was glad to see him win. A lot of people, a little mixed reaction on Facebook. A little haterade for Edge because he's old. Yeah. They're like, they could have made somebody younger or somebody new. Well, Edge can still work, guys. It's not like they had Goldberg win the Rumble, okay? Edge can get guys over. What's wrong with him having a title reign to work with some new guys? Like, why wouldn't you want to see Edge work with Seth Rollins? Why wouldn't you want to see Edge work with possibly Roman Reigns? Why wouldn't you want to see Edge work with anybody right now? I mean, this guy's the perfect guy to win the Rumble and to get people over, especially with his story of his injuries and coming back from the injuries.
Thank you. Then the feel-good story. It's not just like, oh, Goldberg was bored and he needed the money, so he's got tired of working on his fucking Harleys, and he should know this is a true-to-life, feel-good story, like 11, 12 years in the making. I was fine with it.
I agree. Of course, Edge went coast to coast here, pulled a Shawn Michaels and a Chris Benoit, which they never want to mention.
Yeah.
But
Can't imagine why.
he came in at number one and closed it out, winning it all. Travis, we're going to go over here in a little while who we think Edge should challenge for the title. Now, I know there's going to be a little bit of a curveball thrown since they just announced on Raw. There's going to be an Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship. So you're not getting McIntyre versus Sheamus. You're getting McIntyre versus 5 guys.
Yeah.
Which, we're going to go over this in a little while. I'm a little disappointed in this match overall, but we'll go over it later. Travis, what did you think of the Men's Rumble?
I liked it. Obviously, we've seen better Men's Rumbles in the past. Yes, you were on the money. What can I say? You did it. You pulled it off. Nailed it. Congratulations. I don't think Edge should win a belt, though. I think Edge should go into Mania and lose.
Why?
You got 2 guys. First of all, I think Drew McIntyre is retaining. I think the title change to Orton last summer was a total bust. That never needed to happen, in my opinion, just for Drew to win it right back. Drew needs more steam. I get it. He's beaten Brock. He's beaten Goldberg. But they need to keep the ball rolling with Drew. If they really want to invest in Drew and make him this face of Raw over there, keep it going. I don't think it should be Roman and Edge at Mania. I think it should be Drew and Edge, and I'll tell you why. And a lot of people are going to give me shit for that because obviously the money match in a lot of people's eyes is Roman and Drew. I don't think Roman has anything to gain from beating Edge. Period. Even though he literally had 3 opponents in this title run. Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, and who was the other fucking guy? That's how memorable it's been.
Yeah.
They need to keep the Roman train going. I think it should be Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. I know you don't like that. But then again, we just talked about the feel-good story with Edge. There's a 7-year story right there with DB and Roman Reigns. I think it should be Drew and Edge at Mania. I think Edge puts over Drew. I think Edge is one of the most selfless guys probably in the history of the business, but Edge would probably be all about putting over Drew. I can actually see Edge fighting against, like if they were like, you're going to go over, pal, I can see Edge fighting against himself going over backstage. I think he's there to make young guys. Yes, I get the feel-good story aspect of it. But at the end of the day, I just think that you got to keep the vehicle going for both Drew and Roman. You know what I mean?
We're going to have to agree to disagree on this one. I think the marquee match to make for WrestleMania has got to be Roman versus Edge in the main event. Just by process of elimination. Roman has pretty much steamrolled through every top challenger there is to have on SmackDown right now. And with your case with Daniel Bryan can't even beat Cesaro right now. What makes me want to think that he has a chance to beat Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania? That's my big problem with that. Yeah. And as far as McIntyre goes, I don't see McIntyre getting through this Elimination Chamber with the belt.
You don't think he's going to make it?
And the reason is because the reason they originally put the belt on Orton there for that short time is because they were planning for Orton versus Edge at WrestleMania for the strap. Now, I don't think they're going to go back to that now because it's a little too late.
They shouldn't.
Too late to do it now.
Yeah.
But I could see somebody else winning that belt in that chamber. I don't really like all the opponents they chose. Personally, if I was going to have Edge challenge somebody else other than Roman Reigns, I'd have Edge challenge AJ Styles. Put the belt on AJ Styles. Have AJ Styles and Edge at WrestleMania. Tell me that wouldn't be a fucking great match. But
it would.
Also, you have that X factor in there with The Miz having the Money in the Bank. I think he's going to be involved somewhere down the line, if not at WrestleMania, in one of those matches. Because right now they're slating for him to be in a tag match with Morrison against Damian Priest and Bad Bunny.
We'll get there.
We'll get there in a little while. But right now, I'm not interested to see Edge and McIntyre go.
I agree. They need to do more with that if they're going to do it, because we saw like a glimpse of those two going at it in a promo on Raw. Drew was kind of exposed in that. Fair to say. I think they need to learn less is more with McIntyre.
And my thing is, for me, Drew's actually getting a little stale for me, to be honest, especially as a babyface. I like Drew as a heel.
Same.
But the problem WWE has right now is they have too many heels. Everybody, it's been said that it's easier to be a heel than a babyface.
Yeah.
You can be yourself a little bit more as a heel, which is the problem with today's WWE. They don't know how to make a real babyface anymore, because what is a babyface?
Yeah.
What is a heel? You know what I mean? So now you have all these guys that they turn babyface that are so much better as heels. I mean, you look at McIntyre. You look at Kevin Owens, who I love much better as a heel.
Yeah.
Chicken shit heel at his finest. I look at like AJ Styles. I like AJ Styles more as a babyface.
Same.
That's one that I think they kind of missed the ball on there.
I think he's the natural guy. He's like the Ricky Steamboat of the company, natural babyface.
And the guy I love the most as a heel, Edge. Like, if anything, if we're going to do a heel turn with somebody, turn Edge heel, because he has that.
I don't think they're doing that anytime soon.
I would love to see it, though. Whether it's, him turning on whoever. Like, if he's gonna have a match with McIntyre, I need him to turn heel. Somebody's got to be heel for that match. Somebody's got to be babyface. I don't like babyface versus babyface.
You're not a fan of that.
I don't like heel versus heel. I don't like it. It's not my style of wrestling. It's okay every once in a while when you have two babyfaces that are so over, but I don't think you have that right now with McIntyre and Edge. I don't think either one are so over as a babyface that you can be okay with them facing each other. You know what I mean? And being like, well, who do I read for? No, I don't see that in that match. That's my biggest problem. I want to see Edge and Roman Reigns. Edge is a babyface, Reigns is a heel. I don't really care who wins. I just think it's going to be a great match. I think in the bigger scheme of things, I would like to see Roman drop the belt just to get it back later. Maybe, a couple months down the line, Edge has his little title reign, gives Roman, second thoughts about, is he really the head of the table? Can I beat this guy? This and that. And then Roman can go on about his business, going into whatever they're going to plan for him at SummerSlam, because obviously WWE's plans with Roman Reigns right now are he's running the shit. You know what I mean?
He's the hottest act in the company.
Absolutely. Not in merch sales.
No.
But
that's still the Fiend, right?
No, it's Bad Bunny.
Oh my God.
This is why we're going to go over this later, but this is another reason why they keep pushing that guy down your throat. But anyway, that's my thoughts on who Edge should face at WrestleMania. I like him against Roman Reigns. But we'll see. We'll see what WWE does.
Overall, I thought the Rumble as a whole, to wrap that up real quick, we're not going to go down there. I thought it was a very watchable pay-per-view. I thought it flowed pretty well. I thought the Goldberg and Drew match was exactly what it needed to be. 6 minutes, get in and get out. Thank God they went the route they did.
Well, I think once they made it the first match, I think that was brilliant booking to
Yeah.
kind of so people didn't have that anxiety going through the whole pay-per-view like, oh my God, Goldberg's going to win.
I thought the women's rumble was actually really well executed this year.
I thought that was the best women's rumble they'd ever had.
I agree.
I thought it was booked really well. I liked the final two. It came down to Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley for those who didn't tune in. Travis's pick, Rhea Ripley, almost did it.
Give me a heart attack. Watch this.
Bianca Belair was one of those picks that was kind of an obvious favorites pick, but neither one of us really jumped on that
Something
bandwagon.
about that, but they did it. Hats off to them. They pulled the trigger on
Yeah.
that. They something about that just seemed like they weren't going to do it.
I mean, they're trying to make a new star here, which I like. Once again, another case of I like her much better as a heel than a babyface, but once again, WWE has too many heels. So we'll see what they do there. You want to go? Who do you think Bianca should face at WrestleMania?
I think it should be Sasha Banks. I really do. And I think do it right now on the road to... Let's just do it. Let's jump in. Let's flip the script this week. Let's get into SmackDown first this week. We saw this standoff, first with Bianca Belair celebrating and all this, and interrupted by Sasha Banks. What redeeming babyface quality, name one, does Sasha Banks have to you?
Well,
Exactly.
Nothing at all. Just to answer your question.
Even in this promo, she came out gloating, arrogant. Her little stupid shake shimmy thing she does. Turn her heel.
She sings her own theme song while she's going down.
Yes,
the ring,
that is the biggest heel quality, to sing your own shit. Shawn Michaels comes to mind. Do it. Why not?
Sasha Banks has never been a good babyface. I don't understand why WWE thinks she's a good babyface. Yeah. Can you find me one Sasha Banks fan that likes her as a babyface?
Part of me thinks, and I'm not the biggest fan of her, but last year, man, she didn't phone it in last year. She was on fire. Part of me thinks they should have kept the belt on Bayley this whole time. That way, if you're going to do a babyface Belair, who's also a shitty babyface, makes it that much more special, that much more intrigue. If Bayley, imagine if she still had that streak going with the belt.
Yeah, but my thing is Bayley's really, really stale for me too.
It's turning into a one-trick pony a little bit.
I like what they're doing with Bayley, putting over new talent like she did with Belair, elevating the younger talent. Not that Bayley's past her prime or anything. Bayley can still work. Yeah. You know what I mean? Bayley's still probably, if not the best worker in the women's division, she's definitely top 3. I think it's definitely her, Charlotte, and Sasha that are probably the 3 best workers. I mean, Asuka's in there as well. But to me, Sasha Banks, I agree she has to be a heel. If we're going to do this with Belair, you got to turn one of them heel. Like the same thing I said with the babyface versus babyface with McIntyre and Edge. It doesn't appeal to me at all. I don't want to have 2 fan favorites going at it for the belt. I'm sorry. I want somebody to root for and somebody to boo.
Especially going in when there's 2 fan favorites, for just you and I, just looking at this,
are stale.
Not just that, from a biased perspective. What's relatable to you and me with Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks?
Nothing.
Exactly. What's there to invest and get behind? Yeah, it's great that Belair's getting her shot, but I would have been just as invested, if not more, if it was Rhea Ripley. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and Rhea Ripley's another one that, is she a face or is she a heel?
Yeah.
Like,
they do this shit all the time where they sit on the fence with these people for so long and they keep doing it, and by the time nobody gives a shit by the
Rhea
end.
Ripley's another probably natural heel, just from size and look perspective. When you look at Rhea Ripley, she has the look of a heel, but she can also be a babyface in the way that she acts. I don't know how I feel about it with Rhea Ripley yet. I guess we'll see. They're from what I read, they're going to be debuting her on SmackDown. So she's going to be in the SmackDown women's division, not the Raw division.
It's a mistake.
That's another thing that makes me think they might go Belair and Asuka at WrestleMania, or Belair and whoever's the champ from Raw at WrestleMania, because you have Asuka. It was just announced Asuka's going to be defending the belt at Elimination Chamber against Ric Flair's new protege, Lacey Evans.
Protege.
I'm hoping that Evans doesn't win, because then you're going to get Evans and Charlotte at WrestleMania for the Raw belt. But we'll see.
The only reason I can see him doing that, and I know this is Raw and we're on SmackDown right now, the only reason I can see him doing that, because what the fuck storyline-wise is there to do with Asuka right now? And that's their fault. There's nothing for Asuka to do right now.
They've pushed her so far in the background, storyline-wise, like it has totally tarnished her reign as champion.
I agree.
There for a little while, she was the only thing going in that women's division on Raw. Now, since Charlotte's come back, it's like, where's Asuka?
Yeah. Well, let's keep it blue. We'll get back to Raw in a little bit. we're talking off air about this. I didn't hate the segment with Roman and Edge on SmackDown last week. You weren't the biggest fan of it. I think we can both agree, though. Why are we going back to Kevin Owens?
To fill in another pay-per-view.
There's so many guys on that brand. And granted, yes, they have done a shit job building up more contenders, but these guys have done every gimmick match in the book at this point. What the fuck is left?
Well, that and once he beats Kevin Owens again, what do you do with Kevin Owens for WrestleMania?
I still think I'd like to see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in some sort of match, but they're not taking that IC belt off of Big E anytime soon.
Plus, you're going to have Seth Rollins coming back.
Yeah,
I believe either this week or next week.
We've been there and done that with those two last year.
Yeah, they did that last year at WrestleMania, but I don't know. Another story to go over on SmackDown that I wanted to talk to you about that's been in the news. Somebody you haven't seen in the past month or so, Buddy Murphy.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Mr. Cutler, Steve Cutler, was released. God forbid, he was released because he got COVID at a New Year's Eve party. So basically, they said, "See ya."
You want to go into this?
They said, "See ya." So now, that whole angle with Buddy Murphy and the Mysterios against Corbin and his Knights or whatever they were called, Knights, the Kings.
Just get two job guys from NXT that you're doing nothing with, and make them like Shawn Michaels Knights. Put them under masks. The red, blue, and fucking black Knight. Call up Greg Valentine.
But my problem with this is this time last year, Murphy was one of the guys to watch, to be up in that next upper mid-card, maybe main event level. I mean, remember a couple years ago when the guy was a Cruiserweight champion, we were at WrestleMania, and the guy was putting on the best match on the card almost every pay-per-view on the pre-show?
I remember the Super Showdown in Australia. A hero's welcome when he came home. I think it's a case of what I just said. They waited so long. With this guy, they rushed that Dominic Mysterio storyline and it's fucking awful, by the way.
Can we please get Dominic Mysterio off my television?
Thank you.
Can I be the person to say it? Can you tell that this is fucking Rey Mysterio fucking basically telling WWE, if you want me, you got to put my son on TV?
I know we're a little all over the place, guys, but, give us a break. My thing with Dominic Mysterio is, of course he's not ready. How do you think guys like an Undisputed Era feel when they see Dominic Mysterio getting all this TV time on SmackDown?
They hate it. They
would have to,
You
right?
have to. If you're in the business to be the top guy, if you're in the business to be on the main roster and get a spot and possibly be the champion, you hate guys like Dominic Mysterio who are basically on TV because of who their dad is.
Nia Jax, Tamina Snuka, Dominic Mysterio, the list goes on. They do this time and time again. Calling in a favor from Daddy or Uncle Dwayne.
And at least in Tamina and Nia Jax's case, they paid their dues.
They have.
Nia Jax started in NXT. She wasn't just brought on the main roster out of nowhere having matches with main eventers. Right. Like Dominic Mysterio, whose first match on TV was against fucking Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
And he won.
It's
one of those things that I hate most about WWE.
Yeah.
Like, please get Dominic Mysterio off my television.
And
He's not a good promo.
Yeah.
He's not ready in the ring, and his look is terrible.
You're not wrong on any of it. Now, if he was like this prodigy, this like blue chipper, Rocky Maivia,
Richie Steamboat.
Yeah, God, I miss Richie Steamboat.
Yeah,
it's a shame. Then maybe I could give it some sort of excuse, but there's no excuse for this.
No,
none.
What can he do in the ring?
Not when I'm watching Raw and I'm watching SmackDown, and you got guys like Andrade, Aleister Black eating fucking catering every week to give TV time to a kid that looks like he's 15 fucking years old. I get it. I'm right with you.
And now you got Buddy Murphy out of the storyline because of Cutler getting released. Yeah. So now Blake is off TV as well.
Yeah.
So now, instead of it being, I believe the report was it was going to be a 3-on-3 eventually with the Mysterios and Buddy Murphy against King Corbin and Wesley and Cutler and Blake. But now it's like the one guy you pick to take out of the storyline is Buddy Murphy. You can't take Dominic out of the storyline.
Right.
We can't take him out.
You mentioned Steve Cutler getting released because he went to a New Year's Eve party with his girlfriend, Deanna Purrazzo, got COVID, and he was released. Meanwhile, I jump on Twitter almost every day at this point and see Casey Catanzaro posting videos literally from bars, maskless, with all of her buddies, at least 10 fucking people. And everyone's like, oh, you can sit down in a restaurant and take your mask off. There's plenty of video where she's standing and not sitting at a table. What's the fine line? What's the fuck? What's the deal, man? What is it?
She didn't get COVID. Plus, it's Casey Catanzaro.
a lot of people, they said, well, don't take it so serious. Why are you getting your panties in a bunch? Your top guy, your biggest act in the entire company right now, has a compromised immune system. Guys like Kevin Owens went home when the COVID stuff dropped. They were seriously told by Vince, as a favor, I promise to give you the safest workplace possible.
Yeah.
And you got this fucking knucklehead on Twitter. And meanwhile, it's not enough she's doing that. WWE is having her film all these COVID restriction videos. Did you see that? She's given,
I didn't.
She's running down the list of, hey, proper precautions and all this. It's like, how the fuck dare you? Well,
I don't want to run down on Casey Catanzaro.
I will all fucking day long. I think she's an idiot. I think she's irresponsible. I think she's reckless. And then they at least by now have had to pull her aside and be like, look, cut the shit. It's not a good look. You're a public figure. You got to be smarter than that.
She's been getting TV time, so I don't know that it's really hurting her any, but...
Well, we're not done on the releases. One more guy was released this week due to extreme anxiety. I did not know this. Lars Sullivan is gone.
It was actually released in January. They just announced it this past week.
I did not know this. I read this in the news this week. There was about a year or so ago, there were big plans for Lars Sullivan to have a match with
Cena.
John Cena, and he didn't show up to like a Raw or something, no show due to extreme anxiety. Yeah. I know the memes out the ass for Lars Sullivan.
And then, of course, after that, the post about him, doing gay porn.
Now, I will say one thing. All of his shitty comments that he's made from his past, he has, he's manned up and said he was dumb. He was young at the time when he made those comments. He's apologized.
Can I just comment on this for a second?
Go for it.
Since when do we live in a world where we're getting judged by something we said 3 or 4 years ago?
Where the fuck have you been?
Are we not allowed to grow as human beings?
No, we're not, apparently.
We're not allowed. We're not allowed to grow as human beings. We can't be different from something that we said 4 years ago because evidently that's us forever.
Yeah.
You say one stupid thing.
And now forever, pal.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Like when I thought this was a nation where we're allowed to speak our minds and we're allowed to grow as humans and change our opinion as we get older and get a little wiser. And I mean, I know I'm not the same person I was 4 years ago. God damn.
Yeah.
But I mean, evidently you're judged by everything you've ever done in your life. This is like a fucking job interview. Have you said anything stupid in the past 10 years?
Yeah.
Like instead of have you committed a crime, it's have you said anything dumb on social media in the past 10 years?
Yeah.
That's going to be a question on your job application in the future.
I think when people lump Lars Sullivan in with like the Velveteen Dream situation, the speaking out movement, I think that's totally asinine to do. And
I don't want people to think that I'm supporting what he said.
No, not at all. Neither am I.
I'm not. But at
least he manned up.
All I'm saying is he said that a couple years ago, guys.
Yeah.
Before he was even really in WWE.
More than a couple, at least almost a decade, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, and you see this with multiple things, not even wrestling related right now. There's a guy in country music who just got basically banned from country music.
But that was bad.
Because he was outside. It was on somebody's doorbell camera. And he was sitting outside with his friends, and he said the N-word with his friends while he's drunk.
Yeah.
So now they pretty much tried to blackball him from country music. One of the top country singers in the world.
Sold out.
David Allan Coe. Has anybody ever heard of that guy? Anybody ever heard any of his songs? I'm just saying, it's not right that he said it, but my God, should we persecute him forever and take away his right to work because he said one word when he was drunk with his friends?
And we can go in there with another guy we saw on SmackDown this week, same situation, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
same thing.
He's allowed to be forgiven. I guess if you're certain people and you have enough money, you can get away with anything.
Look, anxiety isn't to be taken lightly. It's a serious thing, and people are literally on meds for that. And also, I wish the best for Lars Sullivan. He
said he's done wrestling.
He did. He said he's done with the business and all that. But
he said he had his dream job and he was thankful for the opportunity.
Yeah.
I liked Lars Sullivan. I remember first time we watched him in NXT as Dylan Miley.
Dylan Miley.
His actual name.
You were so high on that guy.
I mean, you just looked at him in that match and you were like, holy shit, where did this guy come from? And you knew that they were going to do something with him. Now, he did go up through the ranks there in NXT, had a title match. Didn't win it, but shortly after got moved up to the main roster, was pushed to the moon there a couple times, but just couldn't handle it. Too many anxiety issues. I feel for him. I hate to say like he wasted so much opportunity and talent. That's not fair because I don't know what it's like to deal with that kind of stuff. I don't have anxiety issues, and I feel for people that do. So best wishes to him and his future endeavors.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, are you ready to do what gives me anxiety? Monday Night Raw, Michael. Holy God.
And just so you know, this past week's Raw was the lowest rated Raw of 2021 so far.
Of all time or just 2021?
2021.
Well, then I would have to make it all time then, right?
I don't think so. But
Can we say the obvious with this fucking show? They're not going to do it because of all the goddamn money they get. 3 hours has suffocated this show for years now. That is the biggest glaring fucking problem with Monday Night Raw. It adds all the filler, it adds all the rematches, all the even Steven booking, all the bullshit. It has killed your flagship show so low down into the ground where it's not even a meme. It's beyond a meme at this point. People hate this show. Hate this show. I would rather watch an episode of WCW Nitro from April 2000, Sid is the top guy, stumbling all over his dick and his words, than watch 10 minutes of Monday Night. I can't even get through the highlights of Monday Night Raw at this point.
well, let's not shit all over it to start. There were some high points in Raw.
God. What would that be? My hole. I'm sure Aleister Black sitting backstage eating his Hot Pocket was glad he gave TV time to some fucking bitch with nepotism issues talking about her asshole. Pathetic.
All right. Well, to start Raw, you had the appearance of Shane McMahon for some reason. Well, first it was Adam Pearce coming out to make an announcement. But out of nowhere, somebody we haven't seen since something, thank God they scrapped, Raw Underground.
Ugh.
Shane McMahon comes out. And evidently he has to help with this special announcement with Adam Pearce for some fucking reason that I don't understand. They announced that at Elimination Chamber, you're going to have an Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship. So the storyline that they tried to tell you the week before on Raw, which I want to mention since we didn't get to go over it last week, the Raw after the Rumble, the night after the Rumble, I thought was really good. I thought it was one of the best Raws they'd had in a long time. They started the storyline with Sheamus and McIntyre. They had Damian Priest out there. They had a lot of stuff going for them. They had a match for new number one contenders for the women's tag belts. They started some new storylines to get behind a little bit.
Yet here we are.
And then a week later, they totally scrapped basically one thing that they tried to start a week ago with Sheamus and McIntyre having a match.
Yeah.
Now it's been turned into a Elimination Chamber match with, of course, McIntyre defending the belt against Sheamus, but also AJ Styles is in the match. The Miz, Jeff Hardy,
Randy Orton.
And I think we're missing. Are we missing one?
I think you got them all.
Okay. Well, the storyline behind this is Adam Pearce wanted the match with all former WWE champions in it. So they picked these guys. Now, my biggest problem with this, why isn't Keith Lee in the match?
He's not a former WWE champion.
Well, why did it have to be all former WWE champions? Shouldn't it be the top guys?
Can I say the bigger thing with this, and I don't think this is going to shock anybody that Michael and I are from the old school.
That's another guy who's getting punished for getting COVID, by the way. That's why Keith Lee isn't in the match.
Well, he went over Riddle this week. I don't think that's...
Yeah, they're putting him in the U.S. title feud now.
I hate...
Then he got squashed by Lashley, who came out and made him look like shit.
I liked the way they booked Lashley this week. I thought that was long overdue. Look at fucking Bobby Lashley. You need to book him like that, as this unstoppable... Who's going to take that belt off Lashley? He's that unstoppable force, you know what I mean? I didn't have a problem with that.
Well, all the intrigue they had with having Keith Lee in that title picture has totally been taken away now that they had Lashley come out and squash it.
I think in their mind they were adding to wanting Keith Lee. We'll get there in a little bit. I hate that the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view is on the road to WrestleMania every fucking year. I truly hate it. I hate that that's even a pay-per-view to begin with. I don't think it should be, just like Money in the Bank. I hate fucking gimmick pay-per-views. Sporadically book an Elimination Chamber match every year or two.
I think it would be better served around SummerSlam time in the year. I don't like it right before Mania. I agree.
And they started doing this shit, what, in 2009, 2010?
Basically to hotshot book whoever they wanted to get the belt to have their matches at WrestleMania.
It nulls and voids so much shit. How many times have we seen this on the road to WrestleMania where the Rumble winner was a moot point because of what they did to the Elimination Chamber? I hate it. It's fucking the epitome of lazy booking. And if this is a vehicle to do Edge and Randy Orton, puke.
Unfortunately, that's a possibility. But the thing that I see here...
It's going to be The Fiend and Orton, I'm pretty sure, at Mania. How do you not do that match, you know?
The thing I see happening here, and my biggest problem... Well, before what I predict here, let's go over my biggest problem with this match. One of my biggest problems, why is Jeff Hardy in the match?
Former champ.
What has he done to earn a shot at the title?
Nothing. He paints his face.
Who's he beaten?
He beat Elias 50 times.
And also, why ever do you put the Money in the Bank contract person in a fucking title match that isn't being used for his Money in the Bank?
Yeah.
Sorry for the noise there.
No.
But this is I don't know how
Money in
many
the
times.
bank.
I don't know how many times they've done this in the past, but I hate it. Why they've done it with Rollins? When Rollins had the Money in the Bank, they put him in that triple threat match with Lesnar and I forget who it was. It was a really great triple threat match.
Ambrose.
I think it was Reigns, maybe.
Okay.
Or one of the two.
I think it was Ambrose.
But yeah, they put him in a title match. If he has the Money in the Bank, why do you need to put him in a title match?
Here's another thing. You remember back in like 06 when RVD won the Money in the Bank?
He called his shot.
Remember the days of them? Why wouldn't The Miz say, hey, I'm going to put myself in the main event of WrestleMania Payday? What the fuck?
Remember Kennedy tried to say he was going to do that.
Yeah, well, Kennedy also injured Randy Orton and got fired.
You fuck with Orton, you just die. Look how long it took for Kofi Kingston.
I hope you guys can keep up with this week. Obviously, Raw has given us a lot of shit to work with. It's Mania season. It's the
That
most.
was just the starter Raw.
I know.
Shane McMahon comes out of nowhere, no explanation as to why he's back.
Can we say this? Because we haven't done Slam Pigs in a while, and we kind of missed that whole Shane McMahon on TV again. How do you have as much TV experience as someone like a Shane McMahon, literally decades worth, seasoned veteran, and you digress on the mic year after year? How is that possible? How is he so bad on the mic when this is the guy I used to watch in 1999 talking shit to Test and Steve Austin?
Because he got to be himself back then. Now we're in the days
My
of scripted promos
God.
written by people who have never written wrestling in their life before
Well, they
this
had
job.
scripts back then in the Russo era.
You had a lot more freedom back then.
You can just see, you can hear the passion is totally gone for Shane McMahon for the wrestling business, I feel like.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but a lot of it's to blame on the writing. And whoever's given him this promo to spit out is not doing their job correctly. And I think a lot of that falls on Bruce Pritchard because he's the one who's supposed to be in charge. He's the one in charge of who's writing the bullshit. Yeah. He's the one in charge of who's saying the bullshit. So if you're going to have Shane McMahon out there, firstly, can I get an explanation as to why he's back? Obviously, this is going to be setting up something for WrestleMania because if WrestleMania is going to have fans in it, then we're going to have Shane McMahon there. They couldn't have him last year because there was no fans, so that takes away from the allure of Shane McMahon.
Right, we're getting what, 25,000 people in the stadium?
Yeah, I think it's going to be something like that. But basically, you can't have Shane McMahon jump off of shit unless there's people there to watch it. That's evidently a rule. But anyway, no explanation for Shane McMahon. Then they have this Elimination Chamber announcement, which makes no fucking sense. But that's the starter Raw. Then we get into maybe one of the lone bright spots of Raw that I really like. A guy that I predicted to be brought up soon, I believe on the Rumble prediction show, Damian Priest.
Ugh.
Travis evidently isn't a big fan. I'm a big fan of Damian Priest. I like his work. I think he's got a big future.
I do too.
Travis isn't a fan of Bad Bunny, which unfortunately, you want to know why Bad Bunny's on TV? Because he's the #1 merch seller.
Well, he's also
He sold over $500,000 in merch
he's
since
also
the
one
Royal
of the,
Rumble.
one of the top musical artists in the world right now, which just shows you how much the music business.
I've never
has
heard of
digressed.
him.
I never heard of him either, God we're old, but I'm glad I never heard of him because from what I saw at his Royal Rumble performance, the Booker T music video, how is this music? Like, what the is he chanting? It's terrible.
Remember when our grandfather used to say that to what we listened to?
Yeah, but whatever. I loved Damian Priest in NXT. I loved that they took that old, dirty Sean O'Hare gimmick, they polished it off, that sin to win, fucking, I'm the devil on your shoulder. It was fucking great in NXT. They turned him babyface in NXT, but he still had enough of that edge to him as that cocky.
He's got a great look.
I'm going to go in the hot tub with strippers. Fantastic look. You know, we talked about it last episode. You know Vince loves that guy. What do you do when you call him up to the main roster? You have him smiling. You have him joking, being a knucklehead and a rascal at Bad Bunny. What the fuck? This guy is a killer. This is Punishment Martinez from Ring of Honor. And he's smiling with a guy named Bunny to feud with The Miz. Holy shit. I don't like to do this a lot, but I think it's fair to say the momentum is gone before it even starts with Damian Priest on the main roster. Because of them.
I disagree. He's going to get his match at WrestleMania.
And everyone's going to shit on it.
Well, everyone's going to shit on it, but it's going to get more eyes on Damian Priest. And hopefully it'll get some more eyes on a guy like John Morrison, who's another guy who's been totally pushed to the background of The Miz. My God. Can we pick anyone worse to have the Money in the Bank? I'm sorry, I'm over The Miz.
And then there was a time you were a huge Miz fan.
Yeah,
it's time.
I've been over The Miz for about 5 years. Okay? He's much better as a heel. I like him as a heel. But personally, he takes up way too much TV time for my liking.
And it's not like he's evolved the gimmick like a Jericho has over the years. It's the same old shit. It's like you're watching 2010.
Now his new gimmick is correct. Yeah, that's really dumb. And if anybody needs to be in the mid card permanently, it's a guy like The Miz.
For me, the swan song with The Miz, the last time it was his best work was that feud with Daniel Bryan. The talking smack promo, the matches we got out of that, which was a bust because of the booking outcome.
Yes.
But that's the time I gave two shits about The Miz. At least it's not Otis with the Money in the Bank, I guess. But who's to say The Miz can't? I mean, here's what I would do. You might totally disagree with this, and I might catch shit for this. Who is better tailored to be a hated heel in NXT than a guy like The Miz?
I agree. I would love that, but they'll never do that.
They'll never do that.
They're never going to send a guy like The Miz to NXT because he'll look at it as a demotion, and he won't let. He would be the first one, I believe, to bitch backstage about that because I've been loyal to this company for years. Look at what I've done. I'm never injured. Blah blah blah. And he's right. You know what? He's never injured.
That's great.
He's always there.
You know another guy who never gets injured is R-Truth. You going to put the world title on him?
R-Truth evidently doesn't age at all either.
No.
Have you ever seen a picture of R-Truth 20 years ago?
Same fucking guy.
Same fucking person.
Yep.
But anyway, The Miz is on TV way too much. Another thing that's wrong with Raw. Next, what do we get to talk about? We get to talk about Charlotte and Lacey Evans.
Next.
All right.
It's
Evidently, they finally had a promo in the ring this week that led to a match between the two that, of course, was a disqualification finish where, of course, Charlotte has to destroy Lacey Evans because when it comes to Charlotte these days, she has to destroy everyone she's in the fucking ring with. Jesus Christ. I like Charlotte just as much as anybody else, but can she ever get anyone else over?
Yeah. Takes me back to last WrestleMania. And one of the worst calls of 2020, Charlotte beating Rhea Ripley. What the fuck was the point of that?
Even when she was in the main event at WrestleMania 35, she wasn't the one that got pinned.
Yeah.
Talk about the one who should have been the one taking the fall. It should have been Charlotte Flair because she was the third wheel in that whole thing.
It's also another case of a woman who's way better as a heel.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Let's all get on Charlotte's side because she was mean to her dad, who now decided to go with some other girl to piss her off. So, I mean, who should we really get behind here? Who's the bad guy?
I do want to move on because I can't stomach another second that's still on. I do want to say, back to the Elimination Chamber thing real quick. I think we might have possibly gotten the best promo Sheamus has ever cut in the history of his time in this company. That little backstage segment with Adam Pearce, with his little inside lines like "You don't think I'm a draw." There was fire in that promo. He was all over the place.
Speaking the truth,
he was.
He probably really feels that inside some of it, and rightly so because there's a lot of people that say that. Remember, we have definitely said it before when we were talking about how we knew this was coming eventually, and we talked about the possibility of him and McIntyre at WrestleMania for the belt, and we both kind of puked in our mouth a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we don't feel like Sheamus is a big enough draw in 2021 to be in the main event of WrestleMania or to be in any title match at WrestleMania that involves one of the two big belts.
It's also another case of guys like this, The Miz we just talked about. Time gets away from us in the modern era of WWE. We go back to Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. I'll do this real quick. Started this tag team, guys. By the time it all came full circle, they were top guys in the company. But all in all, that time for both of those guys was what? I'm not talking about Shawn's comeback, and I'm talking about 12 years each. You know what I mean? Sheamus has been here since 2009.
12 years.
Think about that. The Miz has been here since 06. I can't imagine why they do nothing for me on television.
Well, and this is one of WWE's biggest problem is a lot of their top stars are not getting any younger. I mean, they have the problem where even like a new guy like Damian Priest, I think he's like 38, something like that.
I saw the What Culture post shitting on guys and their age. My philosophy on that is if the guys can still go and they still generate buzz and can cover, and then who cares about their age? You know what I mean?
Well, then you have people that play the other side of the fence like you're getting on Twitter with Edge winning the Rumble at 47. But I mean,
Edge is the best promo in the entire company right now.
Is anybody ragging on AEW because Chris Jericho was their champion at 50 whatever?
Sting! It's Sting!
Sting, another one. Like nobody's big. Like this is a plain case of devil's advocate. Basically, it's okay when AEW does it, but when WWE does it, let's shit all over it because it's WWE.
Well, those fans aren't going away anytime soon, and their neck beards are just going to get more unkempt, and they're going to get fatter. So we just have to accept that. But you know,
I just felt a little worse about myself. Thank you.
I'm glad you're with me on the whole. These guys have been here for fucking eternities. It feels like.
Yeah, but a lot of that has to do as far as Sheamus goes. He hasn't really given you anything to get excited about.
No,
and I'm sure a lot of that isn't his fault. He can only do what he's given.
I know you love the Bar, but relegating him to a tag team for a couple years probably didn't help with that either.
No, it probably didn't. but it kept him relevant. At least it kept him on TV. Plus, a lot of people don't know Sheamus almost retired right after the
Spinal
bar split up.
stenosis.
Yeah, I don't know how much time Sheamus has left. Is this a case of them giving him
Thank you for your service.
one more big feud before you go out? Maybe WrestleMania is it for Sheamus. Who knows? But as far as Sheamus goes, yes, that promo was probably the best Sheamus promo he's cut in at least 5 years.
It was good.
And
I really liked it. It stood out.
the last Sheamus promo that I remember being decent for me was when he was feuding with John Cena for the belt in 2012 or whatever it was, 2011.
Shit. Yeah.
I mean, he was new. He was different. It seemed like what he was saying was believable. Then for years and years, you could tell it was just something he was given to say. Now he finally gets that little chip on his shoulder, like, hey, you don't think I'm good enough to be in the main event? Well, I'll show you I'm good enough to be in the main event. So, I mean, good promo. Hopefully it leads to something for Sheamus. Highly doubt it really will, but we'll see.
We're running out of time before we get to the break. We'll hit a few more key points in Raw, then we'll get out of here. Keith Lee and Matt Riddle, I thought, had a fine match. You're not a fan of the booking of this. I thought it was. Well, one of them had. I'm a huge fan of both. By the way, can I say, speaking of the Rumble again, can I please get more Matt Riddle and Daniel Bryan? Inject that right into my fucking veins, because that was
good stuff.
That was great. So that reminded me of Benoit and Angle type stuff. One of the guys obviously had to eat a pin in this. This is on them though. Then why the fuck did you book these guys, especially on free TV?
And if you're gonna book it, the guy who should take the pin took the pin, because Riddle hasn't been booked strong.
Yeah.
He's been booked kind of as a bullshit challenger for Lashley, which is why I was so upset at how they booked Lashley this week. You finally establish a new challenger in the U.S. title division, and the first thing you do when you establish him as a challenger is you bring the champion out to beat the fuck out of
I
it.
think the only reason I disagree, and I know that was your stable of the year last year, the Hurt Business.
Yes.
I think the one key ingredient that was missing for me in the Hurt Business, as much as they were trying, was true badass edge. And I think, like that edge, not edge, but like, I think this was a glimpse of what we've needed to see months ago from this. Don't tease they're going to break up. Don't tease dissension. Keep this fucking group going. I need more of this. That way, if they keep beating down Keith Lee, that way when he beats Bobby Lashley at Mania or whatever the fuck they do, it means more.
I wouldn't have had a problem if the whole Hurt Business came out and beat the shit out of him. But the fact that it was just Lashley by himself, didn't need any help.
He's not a babyface.
And the fact that he didn't, he attacked him from behind, but it didn't do anything until Keith Lee. Keith Lee turned around and looked him in the eye and came at him, and Bobby Lashley still destroyed him. Now, if he'd have came out and attacked Keith Lee from behind to where Keith Lee couldn't do anything about it, then I would have gotten on board a little bit. Okay, he chicken shit healed his way to beating the shit out of him.
Yeah.
But really, all he did was shove him. Then he waited for him to turn around like a man.
Yeah.
Let him come at him, and then just beat the ever-loving shit out of him.
You're not wrong. That's babyface stuff right there.
As far as booking-wise, it made no sense for me why they would do that.
The one loophole I think that they would spin if they were here right now to tell you, and I can kind of see where they're coming from, they did it after Keith Lee had a hard-fought match, so he wasn't fresh. Now, if Keith Lee would have just been cutting a promo and was fresh, then I would have shit all over this completely. But that's the only loophole I see in getting around that. Either way, it's time they do more of this kind of stuff. At least we're talking about the United States title.
Yeah.
At least the Intercontinental title has somewhat felt more relevant than it has in quite some time. You think, God, that design is so ugly, and I fucking hate it. I don't know how you feel about the new IC belt.
I love the U.S. belt. I hate the IC belt.
Same. But, no, I didn't.
I think the U.S. belt's actually probably my favorite looking belt in the company.
Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, one more time this week. Ending in a fucking complete schmoz to the shock of no one. My favorite match of theirs is
They
still.
totally botched that, by the way, if you watched it.
Yeah.
Because you could tell Randy Orton literally pushes McIntyre out of the way to eat the brogue kick, which made no sense. I'm sure that's not what they were trying to do there.
Yeah.
Like it was supposed to be McIntyre knowing that he was behind him.
Yeah.
But if you watch that replay, you can clearly see Randy Orton go and just shove him out of the way to take the brogue kick.
Right.
So, and then, of course, McIntyre hits him with the Claymore, and there goes Sheamus's heat. But
hot prediction. We're 1 week away from Elimination Chamber. I guarantee you next week all 6 guys are going to have a tussle.
Yeah. And really, how many guys have a chance to win the belt in the Elimination Chamber?
2 guys. 3. Maybe AJ Styles. That's a big maybe. Because they've kind of made him seem like a fucking joke for the past however long.
Which is crazy because he's been beating everybody. But they put him kind of in nothing to do.
What do you think of Omos?
Omos?
We don't really never talked about him. Just as like that Diesel.
I mean, obviously he looks great. You know what I mean? But him on the mic, I have heard him here recently. They finally let him talk some. He should probably just shut up a little more.
Please, God, don't ever let him work.
Like less is well, they're going to let him work eventually. They're not just bringing him up to be a manager. You don't bring up a 7'5" guy to just stand there. You know what I mean? And a thing with him is going to be less is more. It's going to be how they book him and who they book him with. Yeah. They're going to need to book him strong. Basically, they could copy and paste what they were trying to do with Lars Sullivan and do that with Omos if they want. A perfect feud for Omos to start would be like the Lucha House Party. Like, just beat up all three of them for a couple weeks, then move up to maybe some mid-card guys like Jeff Hardy.
Dominic Mysterio.
Oh, God. Well, Dominic Mysterio...
You can do that if you're just going to obliterate Dominic
Mysterio. I'm not allowed to say Dominic Mysterio for the rest of the show. I've had enough of it.
I'm cut off.
I've had enough. Okay?
That's your trigger word.
Yes. I hate it.
Dominic Mysterio.
Stop it. But anyway, Omos, I see a future there. Obviously, he's really green.
Biggest necklaces I've ever seen in my life.
Well,
that would be a belt on me.
Imagine how much that fucking shit cost.
How big would that turtleneck fit on your neck?
That would look like a nightgown on me.
Good God. A muumuu.
But I mean, just looking at him, he's probably the tallest guy other than Giant Gonzalez that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest problem with Omos and AJ Styles is he makes AJ Styles look so little. But he makes everybody kind of look little.
Right.
The only people that he doesn't make look super tiny would be like Braun Strowman, people like that. But Omos, it's a little too early to predict. We'll see. Obviously, there's going to be a split eventually there somewhere where hopefully that's not his first feud is with AJ Styles, even though, great person to put you in the ring with if you're green.
Right.
But
Omos would have to just literally stand there and have a classic with
AJ Styles would be having a match with a broom, basically.
Yeah.
But Omos, we'll see. Time will tell. Obviously, he's a Vince guy. Obviously, Vince looked at that guy and was like, holy shit.
My God.
Yeah. He's my new champion.
Yeah.
Imagine him and Brock at WrestleMania.
That was Monday Night Raw. I don't really have anything else to add to it.
Raw, that's it. Thank God.
It sucked.
Yep, as usual. But to be fair, the week before, the night after the Rumble, Raw was pretty decent. But it wasn't. We didn't talk about Nia Jax's hole. So.
With good reason. Because I'm sure everyone's sick of seeing it by now anyway. Lana and Nia Jax had a match where she did a shitty leg drop on the apron, that mad elevation she gets, and she hurt her fucking asshole.
And then Lana pushed her into a table which literally just broke because of Nia Jax falling into it. But we're not going to go into that.
Terrible.
For those that maybe want us to talk about this, for those who haven't caught it, I brought it up to Travis. The Raw Talk segment after Raw with Charlie Caruso and Damian Priest. And R-Truth, who started calling Damian Priest DP, and that really got Charlie Caruso excited. She mentioned how much she loved DP at least 3 times, to the point where Priest and R-Truth kind of looked at her for a second, and then went back to, yeah. But Charlie Caruso, obviously, is either the most gullible, naive person you've ever met in your life.
No, they knew what they were doing with that.
Or they just said the word DP about 3 times.
Yeah. It's that quote.
That was probably the highlight of Raw, was after the show with Charlie Caruso talking about how much she loves DP.
And that speaks to how sad it is. 3 hours, and the highlight was on the post show.
Charlie Caruso's best interview ever.
Speaking of highlights, speaking of post things, when we come back, you guys voted again. I know Michael is so goddamn excited about this one. Because, can you hear it? We're going to Thunder, WCW Thunder, Slam Pigs podcast. This is our first WCW segment in history.
Talk about Slamboree.
What?
Never mind.
When we come back, Slam Pigs podcast, you guys voted WCW Thunder. A quick synopsis when we come back, Slam Pigs. Michael, let's go to break. We are back, Slam Pigs podcast. You guys voted once again. Every week we give you a retro topic, any era, any time in pro wrestling. This week, Michael, I know you're stoked, you're jacked, you're excited. Where are we going this week?
Once again, I'd like to thank all of you that voted once again for the absolute last choice I would have had to talk about on this show. We were talking about WCW Thunder this week, Travis.
We can talk about Tony Atlas some more if you're that upset.
Thunder. Feel the thunder. Lightning. Sorry.
WCW Thunder, you guys voted. My God. Let's go back to the genesis of the brainchild of this show. This was due to the success in '97 of the mass success of Nitro, which came from last to first. It used to be a joke at CNN Center, and then it became, oh, you're worth a shit now because you're actually drawing. The higher ups pretty much forced Eric Bischoff to start a secondary show.
Another wrestling show.
Before the days of SmackDown, before the days of all these secondary shows, this was the first one, really.
Yeah. WCW was trying to capitalize on their momentum from Nitro, so they decided to start a secondary show, which was designed.
They didn't.
Well, Ted Turner.
Billionaire Ted did. Eric Bischoff hated this from day one.
Eric Bischoff was the old school mentality of we don't need more on television or it'll get stale, which kind of ended up happening, but WCW Thunder was designed to, I guess, generally get more talent over on the roster, which in turn it really didn't. At least from my point of view, I felt like it did was stale storylines.
Yeah, overexposed guys.
Yeah, and just too much filler for me.
Yeah.
But who can remember that original set for the first week, Travis? I think we were talking about it outside. It looked like Legend of the Hidden Temple.
Yeah.
Like it was terrible. The continuity of the show in general was just awful. Bad. Sometimes they'd have a logo on the mat. Sometimes the mat would be gray. Sometimes it'd be white. Sometimes the ropes would be black. Sometimes they'd be blue. Like, it felt like each week they were just like, put it out there. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But it did have some memorable things that happened on this show. I think
we cherry picked 3 because you got to admit this with me. I can't think of a show looking back that had least memorable moments than WCW Thunder. And we've talked about fucking Saturday Night Superstars. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Literally, if you look up WCW Thunder greatest moments on YouTube, you won't get shit.
We cherry picked 3. I tried to take 3 key moments. The Raven fan incident.
Diamond Dallas Page, for years, I've listened to you profess to be the hardest working man in wrestling. How you practice 12 hours a day. How you diet and go to the school. Page, that's not how you became a superstar. How you became one is you moved next door.
What's this about? What is going on here? Now, as he was saying, guys, I think what happened is
Putting people through tables.
There you go.
You know how Raven sat in the corner or whatever, cutting his promo. Here comes a fan, unprovoked, unplanned, pulls his hair. I mean, he yanked the shit out of it, too. Like, pulled him out of the ring. Raven just goes, true professional, I guess.
Literally pulls Raven out of the ring by his hair before security gets a hold of him. Raven stands up, takes a second to stare at the guy, then just goes back in the ring and continues to do what he was doing. But unfortunately, the mic didn't work.
Yeah.
So he continues to cut a promo without the microphone working. So they put the camera as close as they could to him about a minute later, trying to hear what he was saying, until finally somebody had the idea to say, do we have another microphone out here? And gave him a fucking microphone to finish the last 20 seconds of his promo.
Textbook WCW at its finest. It's pretty bad when this was the thing that I remembered the most from Thunder happening. It's pretty bad when the biggest thing memorable was a fucking unplanned botch.
Fan coming out and basically fucking up your whole promo was the most memorable thing to happen on that show.
This wasn't on my list, but I think one of the more memorable moments that happened, the actual announcement from J.J. Dillon announcing that Goldberg would get a shot at Hogan on Nitro the next week happened on Thunder, Michael.
That did happen. And a little backstory here for Bret Hart fans like myself. Eric Bischoff said that this was one of the biggest reasons that they wanted to go after Bret Hart to bring him to WCW was to use him as top marquee talent for Thunder, not necessarily Nitro, because they wanted to get their other marquee talents that were up at the middle top of the card on Thunder to really showcase them. So Bret was supposed to be that marquee talent to really help Thunder get over with the audience like Nitro did.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they had no idea how to book Brett, so this didn't really happen.
Yeah.
All it did was just make the show even more confusing in my eyes. But Thunder as a whole, I think, ended up being their downfall, one of their biggest downfalls in WCW, and it ended up being basically WWE's opportunity to really step on their throat at the end when WWE decided to come out with SmackDown a little later. When did SmackDown debut? Like 99?
99.
Yeah, a year later when SmackDown decided to debut. This was after WWE had kind of taken a hold of the ratings for a little while. They were really starting to beat the shit out of WCW. So what does Vince do? Like the like the man he is, he's like, I can kill these motherfuckers if I start another show on Thursday.
And the difference is when WWE did it, they did it the right way, at least at first, because God knows SmackDown had years of it didn't matter. But it was just more of like, carrying on from Raw. You know, it meant something. It was worth the shit. It
They
just
basically
wasn't.
did what WCW was trying to do with Thunder,
Yeah.
except they executed it.
They actually did it.
Yeah.
Instead of sending out El Dandy, Scott Norton, the dog, Al Green, fucking Glacier every week, Steve McMichael.
I mean, if you were a fan of Lash LaRue and Bobby Duncombe Jr., Thunder was your show. I mean, if you wanted to see that fucking red hot feud, anytime you wanted to see Lash LaRue, you could just tune into Thunder.
Here's what I would have done with Thunder. First of all, I hate the name. It makes no fucking sense. It's dumb. They totally used the Thunder in Paradise logo, the same one the TBS used. It should have been a Cruiserweight Showcase show, I feel like. 1 hour every week.
Yeah, you could have actually used the show to get over more talent like it was supposed to, instead of just basically continuing feuds that happened on Nitro and having the same 10 guys come out that you had on Nitro.
Yep.
So basically you would use these cruiserweights to have little filler matches in between you trying to continue your storylines that we just saw 3 days prior.
Yeah.
So basically Thunder was not utilized in the form that you would want to use it to really bolster depth of your roster and get more people over. This could have been a great time to get some secondary titles over, like the television title, the U.S. title, the tag team titles. This is a show that really could have showcased some of those feuds a little bit more, because we know that Nitro was predominantly owned by NWO storylines. So you really didn't get a whole lot of different stuff on Nitro other than NWO, Bill Goldberg, Sting. Thunder could have been used to get over these secondary title feuds, these tag title feuds. They really dropped the ball.
Look at the mid-card, quote-unquote, of WCW at the time. They're not even, Some of it is, Bret Hart was considered the mid-card. Kurt Hennig was considered the mid-card. Their mid-card would have been main event in any other company at the time. Because they do what WWE does now. They hoard talent so nobody else can have them.
Yeah. They really bought everybody to kind of try and put WWE out of business. But what they failed to do was actually give them something meaningful to do. Yeah. So in the end, they just had a bunch of people they were paying to do nothing.
Here's another one I cherry picked just for you, Michael. I don't know why I felt the need to do this, but I just had to look at the title of it on YouTube. Kevin Nash and Dusty Rhodes versus the Public Enemy. This was that cup of coffee that Dusty Rhodes had being in the NWO, which is a sentence I can't believe just came out of my mouth. But it happened. It's on YouTube. Go watch it now.
Who can forget that red leather jacket?
My God. Kevin Nash, Dusty Rhodes versus the Public Enemy. Think of that sentence.
Which ended up, Travis, being basically Kevin Nash against Public Enemy, who had just held the tag team titles for the company not long before that.
Yeah.
So what they decided to do, instead of having a good match here, they decided to basically have Kevin Nash squash Public Enemy by himself until the end, when Dusty Rhodes pulls one of them to the outside, gives him the bionic elbow, and then goes in after the jackknife. Can I just say that Kevin Nash's jackknife was
lazy
to say the least,
and unsafe. I'm just going to drop you.
Yes,
I'm just
going to pick you up and just let you go.
This was in my opinion, one of the worst things you can ever do in a pro wrestling company is give talent creative.
This was the end of Public Enemy.
For sure. And what I was going to say, the worst thing you can ever do is give a talent creative control. This was a case of Kevin Nash had creative control. He had political fucking power backstage. And my God, you're right. These guys were former tag team champs. The brawls they used to have with the Nasty Boys.
They even brought out the table to get you excited, like, oh, they're going to use it.
They did. But did you notice the looks on their faces during their entrance?
Yes.
They couldn't wait for this fucking bell to ring and get out of there. Get that payday. It didn't get any better for Public Enemy. We all know their time in the WWF for a month. They got fucking the shit beat out of them by the APA.
Well, that was rightly so, because they tried to switch a finish.
They
tried to switch a finish on the APA right before they went out the curtain, and basically the APA decided that they're going to do what we fucking want them to do.
Yeah. The last thing that I cherry picked.
If I was going to change a finish on somebody, Travis, I don't think it would be Farouk and Bradshaw.
No.
Ron Simmons and Bradshaw, probably not the two guys that I'd be like, hey, I'm changing the
Now,
finish.
if you're going out there 99 and you're working like the Hardys or Kai and Tai, sure, change the finish all fucking day.
Yeah.
Or Gilbert.
Like, could you be any dumber?
Blue Mania, I'm changing the finish.
That's like saying to the Road Warriors, hey, we're not going for the finish.
Last thing that I cherry picked, Bret Hart, a lot of people think his last match was against Goldberg at Starrcade when he got the concussion and the kick to the face. He had a couple more under his belt. His second to last match at that time he ever had before the WWE comeback in that terrible match with Vince at Mania. My God, I know, I see you squinting right now. Bret Hart versus Terry Funk in a hardcore match on Thunder from like January 2000. On paper,
This could have been really good.
these guys, technically this is one of Terry Funk's 500 retirement matches at the Sportatorium or wherever it was. Bret and Terry Funk from Beyond the Mat or Wrestling with Shadows, whatever movie
That
it
was
was.
right before Brett left WWE.
Now, on paper, should have been a classic. But this is not quite what we
As soon
watched.
as they introduced it as a hardcore match, I was like,
Yeah.
But, I mean, Terry Funk at this time, what was he really able to do other than a hardcore match? He
I
wasn't going to put on a technical
I got to
masterpiece.
give him credit, though. He's still going out there the crazy man he is. That jackknife at the end off the stage that Terry Funk was.
Well, yeah, he could be a crash test dummy.
Yeah.
That's basically what he was at this point in his career, which is what he had been the past couple years in WWE. They basically used him for crash test dummy spots or hardcore matches. People don't realize how good Terry Funk was in the 70s and 80s. Terry Funk
And
might
90s.
have been the best worker in the world for a little while.
We talked about it earlier with the old Lion and Edge now.
Him and Harley Race probably, and Ric Flair, of course, probably the three best workers in the world from the 70s and 80s standpoint.
Can you tell how much we love Thunder? We're trying to get off any topic. I feel like a Terry Funk could work in any generation. You could bring him back now.
I mean, credit to him for evolving and knowing what he had to do to make money at his later age in life. It's kind of sad to think about, but it's also kind of cool to think, hey, this guy found a different way to make money in a third and fourth decade of working in the business. Yeah. So, I mean, kudos to Terry Funk. But back to this match, Travis. This match was awful.
It was awful. And knowing what we know now, I mean, how can we hate on Bret for this match?
He was obviously not himself, dealing with concussion symptoms.
And NWO 2000. Jeff Jarrett, Bret Hart, The Outsiders, one of the worst fucking ideas ever done. It was way time in 2000. Let's just let the NWO go. But they never learned that lesson, did they?
They didn't learn the lesson, and they didn't put the right people in it.
No.
Like if you're
Jeff
gonna
Jarrett
have Bret Hart in the NWO,
made no sense. Even before this, when he was in NWO Hollywood, made no fucking
Bret
sense.
Hart is not a secondary faction member. If you're gonna have Bret Hart in a faction, he needs to be the leader of it. Look at the Hart Foundation, possibly one of the greatest factions that nobody ever talks about anymore.
It was so good.
That faction was phenomenal.
And we're only 3 years removed from that when this match
Correct.
happened.
And Bret was the leader of the faction. So now you put Bret as the World Heavyweight Champion, but he still doesn't feel like the leader of NWO 2000, does he?
No.
It's the Outsiders. It's Hall and Nash.
They went for that shock value, and this isn't about NWO 2000, but they went for that shock value on Nitro, and Bret won the title at the Mayhem tournament from Benoit in the finals. It was looking like they were finally doing right by Bret. This is what he should be booked at, and then all of a sudden, we need to swerve him, bro, and it's not even Russo, because he wasn't even fucking there. That's the sad part.
I don't know who was booking at this point. I
Christ.
guess it was Kevin Nash.
I guess.
In 2000, was Kevin Nash booking?
50 fucking people booked in 2000 for WCW.
Whoever it
My
was.
mailman booked for WCW in 2000.
Whoever it was, they fucking sucked, okay?
And it's fair to say Thunder sucked. As a whole,
It was awful.
It was awful. It was unneeded, and the idea was right.
Might have been one of their biggest downfalls.
I don't really see why they needed another show when you had WCW Worldwide, WCW Pro, WCW Saturday Night had been on there since the 70s.
You know, a lot of people talk about Goldberg getting beat as the biggest downfall in WCW.
Finger poke a doom.
Yeah, they talk about but WCW Thunder, I don't think gets mentioned nearly enough.
Between Thunder and what we go through now with that third hour of Nitro tacked on, where it just became... where it just became more filler. The exact fucking thing. And the stupid, boneheaded fucking decision. I can't imagine why they lost in the ratings every week when Nitro would end, immediately followed by what? The replay of Nitro. So you could just watch Raw knowing you can watch Nitro later.
Correct.
So stupid in a ratings war like that. But so stupid it pretty much wraps up WCW as a whole, in my opinion.
After 98, after Hogan and Sting, I feel like and especially after Goldberg got beat, WCW was on a steady, deep decline.
And I get it, wrestling is subjective. If you're a fan of Disco Inferno, Mortis, Glacier, Lash LaRue, the Filthy Animals, then Thunder is right up your fucking alley. Trust me.
I could do a whole show on Lash LaRue.
Lenny and Lodi. Who could forget? Oh, but it was unneeded. It sucked then. It sucks now. There was never a time I had to be, even in my highest fandom in the Attitude Era, Michael, and I know you're the same way, we had to be more than bored to tune into Thunder.
I don't think I ever watched a Thunder.
I did occasionally, but that, like I said, there was just nothing else going on in my life, apparently.
I mean, around that time, I was playing a lot of baseball and stuff, and Thursday night wasn't a night where I thought, hey, I wonder if there's wrestling on.
Yeah.
But until SmackDown came on.
Right.
Obviously, I was a WWE kid. I did watch some WCW. I watched a lot of Nitros. Basically, flipping back and forth during commercials, I would go from, if something came on WWF that I didn't like, I would go switch to the other channel for a couple minutes until I found out it was Glacier versus Mortis. Then I'd flip back and hope that the commercial break was over on WWF. But yeah, Thunder, in a nutshell, one big giant disappointment and maybe their biggest downfall and WWE's biggest opportunity to kill them.
I will say, we were talking off air, the best thing about Thunder, you talked about the shitty set in the beginning. The best thing about Thunder by the end was the set. It was pretty cool.
After the first month, they decided to change the set, thank God.
Yeah.
And it was more of a lot of metal and fans and stuff.
It's like a futuristic.
It looked kind of cool.
Yeah.
But the rest of it just didn't, the curtain didn't match the drapes there a little bit.
Do you also remember, for Thunder, every promo a guy would cut in the ring, they would do the lights turn down, the flickering, lightning was going off. God, that was annoying.
I didn't like it.
Jesus Christ. But thank you guys so much for voting WCW Thunder. We hope you got your fill. We hope we lived up to the shittiness of that show.
Once again, you didn't let me down on picking the absolute last thing I wanted to talk about. So let's see if you can do it again this week, guys. Wait till you see these choices this week.
That's all I got on Thunder, Michael.
That's
Thankfully
all I have to ever talk about Thunder again for the rest of my life.
One more time before we get out of here this week. Where can everyone catch you and all that goodness?
You can always check me out at Mike the Slam Pig on Twitter. If you want to at me. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Or you can check me out on Facebook. We are the #1 wrestling podcast in the tri-state area. For those that try to claim that they are #1 in the I-81 interstate area, you're wrong. Slam Pigs Podcast, where it's at. Travis, where can they check out your 5 million things on your channel?
Well, every Thursday, 8 o'clock, TBS. You can as always, on Twitter at the Hibiki TMD. Once again, that red button down below. Subscribe, hit it. All the goodness, retro gaming, pro wrestling, heavy metal podcast, Terry Bollea's bullshit, everything in between. Every Monday or Tuesday night, Broken Optics on Twitch. Catch me over there. And your official Hibiki TMD merch, unionsmack.bigcartel.com. Happy to announce, for the first time ever, a brand new design. A new Slam Pig shirt's coming this spring. Look for it.
I got merch. It's got my face on it.
You had merch before.
Oh.
But,
Oh.
that was the old logo.
I didn't receive any royalties for that. Did we not sell any?
Thank you guys once again for voting this week. Until next time, Slam Pigs Podcast. Michael?
Oi!